how nice to be here, and I'm absolutely honoured to have been asked by Michael to come along and help steer the conversation a little bit tonight, and hopefully get to hear some people's amazing stories about why they've chosen Tonic, how Tonic got to be set up 30 years ago when I got my first mortgage, and me and Michael were talking about this. The first thing that me and my partner had to do was to go and see somebody because we were obliged to have an AIDS test to get the mortgage. And we were super fortunate that it was a time when there were one or two people who knew how to play the system, and we managed to secure that mortgage. But that was a very simple conversation that your bank or your financial advisor would say, okay, we can get you a mortgage, but the first thing you need to do is go and get 2 blood tests because there are 2 men on the same application. Michael, we're the same generation. We know many people in common. A common story for all of us.
Definitely, and I think in the whole era of Section 28 and where there was pretty negative stereotyping around gay men, if 2 people of our generation back in the 80s turned up to rent a flat, you could be legitimately turned away, and you were legitimately turned away. And you had to go to a sort of, there was a friendly pool of landlords, people that you know would be accepting and welcoming, and so this bank manager down the Walworth Road, go to him, he's one of us, he'll sort you out, and it's a very different landscape to today.
No, and it's interesting because I guess it's the people who are in our generation who are now getting to the point where they're thinking about what happens next. Those questions that haunted you 30 years ago, they don't go away because many of the generation that you were dealing with back then are now going to be sitting in those care homes. You don't want to go through the experience again of hiding who you were or trying to tone down your history or not tell your life story. And that maybe you'll be able to navigate this in easier ways than we did, and maybe your experiences will be different. So it'll be interesting to talk a little bit about that. But first of all, we're going to get Anna to set up a little bit and tell us a little bit about the history of Tonic and how it came to be.
Thank you. And hi, everyone. So my name's Anna. My pronouns are she, they. And I'm very proud to be the Chief Executive of Tonic Housing. Tonic is a very small, community-led, not-for-profit housing association. We're run by and for older LGBT people. And we are really focused on creating vibrant and inclusive urban LGBT-affirming retirement communities. And it's very much about, Tonic is about those shared common experiences, a place to actually find mutual support and actually enjoy a later life. So I'm not going to take all the credit for that. Tonic was formed back in 2014. It was founded by our former board members from their own lived experience, primarily to address the issues of loneliness and isolation, but also to respond to this demand as to what are we going to do in our later life? Who's going to care for us? So Tonic started out very much as a community-led project. It evolved its early vision through a number of community-led design workshops, and we have a community panel, people with a lived experience, who, along with our board members, actually shaped what Tonic looked like so that what was going to be provided met people's needs, aspirations, wishes, demands for the future. We came up with this idea that we were going to have to develop a partnership model. We were going to have to work with another partner to make this happen. And we spoke to many developers and housing providers during this time. And I got told about the Bankhouse scheme in Vauxhall. Now, the location was perfect. One of the issues with the expense was how we're going to build this vision in central London with the property prices involved. And we spent a lot of time talking with our board members and our community panel about why location was so important, being somewhere that was part of our community, somewhere where people felt safe was really important, and somewhere where people felt connected. So we then undertook this piece of community-led demand information because, surprise, surprise, local governments and the GLA don't actually even know what the needs of older LGBT people are. They didn't think that might be an issue, that might be different. They didn't know some of the stories, and therefore we actually set about by seeking to actually capture those voices. And we did this report, and it captured the voices of over 600 older LGBT Londoners. And we put this all together in a report. We worked with Stonewall Housing and with Opening Doors and with the University of London. And it was a really strong, there was lots of diversity, lots of different views in here. But what was a really strong message is that people wanted housing and care and support services that are safe. 79% of people wanted LGBT affirming or accredited housing with care. And I think the most shocking statistic is that only 1% of the respondents said that they'd be prepared to go into a general housing scheme with care and support. Now, that said a lot, that people just were not trusting of the mainstream system, and that's not what they wanted. So that really gave us the evidence base to kind of move forward, and the evidence to the Mayor to actually fund Bankhouse. We managed to raise £5.7 million of loan funding from the GLA, which was no mean feat, to actually buy these properties. Why did we buy the properties? Because it was really important that we were there for the long term. We weren't going to just be a service provider on a service contract that might only last a couple of years. We needed to own these properties, and we have 125-year leases. We're part of the fabric now of the building and the offer. This is Tonic Bankhouse. It's a gorgeous extra care scheme. It was designed by Foster and Partners long before we even got involved in it. But when we went, I think we all went, ooh, this is lovely. And Tonic is all about community. It's all about the place where people can live their lives out. It's not an average retirement community. Our residents decide what they want to do, and we support them. And we're learning from our residents on this journey.
And the last piece of context, Michael, just very quickly, we should explain one of the reasons here is the building is a Foster and Partners building, but you didn't design it as a space with this in mind at all.
Well, paradoxically, I didn't work on it, but no, we didn't. We designed the building, but it was designed, I think, as general social housing, and it just seemed to tick the most number of boxes for Tonic, if I understand correctly from what you said. So it wasn't a specific aim to design an LGBT plus community, but I would definitely like to do some more now, if we could.
Well, Raga, let's jump to you. Let's come to the other end, and let's hear a little bit of your life story and the reasons that you've decided that actually Tonic is the place for you. So tell us, you're in your 50s, I know that, but you have chosen to live in Tonic. Tell us some of the reasons that it felt like the right place for you.
Okay, I'm going to say that I am nearly 53, and it's my birthday tomorrow, so I need full celebration. See, I know how to get attention. Now, I'm just going to take everyone back to September 24th, 2020. Anybody remembers the lockdown? Many of us don't want to, but I'll tell you what we were doing on the 24th of September. Nicola and I, my partner and I, we were exercising. We went for a big long walk, 6 kilometers walk. We came back and we were doing a cook-off. I said, I can cook better Indian than you, but she beat me that day because she judged her own cooking. We spent a lot of time with our cat, Biscuit. We had a FaceTime call with our twins, who are now 25. And we were just so excited about life. We have businesses that we run in India. We were talking to our business partners in India. And we were so excited. I had decided to semi-retire. I had said to Nicola that I want to be a full-time writer. My first book was, like I said to you earlier, Andrew, my first book was out before I was. We went to bed extremely happy, thinking, wow, life has been made. We've worked really, really hard all our lives, and now we deserve this semi-retired life. But guess what happened on the 25th of September at 3 a.m.? I got woken up by Nicola saying she wasn't feeling very well. And I quickly checked her blood pressure. Her blood pressure was high. Then I called up 111. they said to me that we're going to send you the ambulance straight away. We had the ambulance arrive at a place in 8 minutes during lockdown, which is very, very commendable, as you know. And I was told about at 5 o'clock in the morning that Nicola has had a major stroke. Life is not as predictable as we think it is. So when she came back home after 6-7 weeks and we had to reevaluate her life, I said to her, I don't know what we're going to do. She came back home, she couldn't walk, she couldn't speak, she couldn't even remember where she was. And I thought to myself, what happens to my life now? And that's when I started looking for homes. Miracle, miracle. Tonic Housing came up.
Steve, we should bring you in here. You have an interesting story as well. You are successful in business. You've chosen this as your home. When we spoke earlier, you talked about future-proofing your life, making sure that you didn't have to go through many of these problems and questions about coming out all over again. You wanted somewhere that was cool to live. Tell us perhaps how you found Tonic and why it's important to you.
I've had one relationship in my life, and my ex and I are best friends. He lives in Portugal, and he emailed me and said, have you seen this thing about Tonic? I have to wait for someone in Portugal to tell me that there's something going on. Well, I soon looked into it, and I went to an open day, and the feeling I got as I walked through the doors was, yeah, there's a community here. And I know that an open day could be put on, but no, they were inviting people who were already living there to come and tell me how wonderful it is.
Bob, you run all the operations for the building. What does that mean? Are you in charge of trying to bring actually, maybe it says community on the tin, but actually we're as diverse a group of people as anybody else. Are you trying to bring people together as a community and make it function as more than just people who happen to be LGBTQ living in their apartments?
The residents that create the community, and Steve hinted at it there, it's a great location, great apartments, but actually what people want to live and be part of is a community. I used to be CEO of Stonewall Housing, and I remember, 20 years ago, we set up an older people's housing group. And some of those were members of the old campaign for homosexual equality. Some of them used to live in the old lesbian squats in the 60s and 70s. And we've lost them. They didn't get to see Tonic happening. And it's the Tonic and One Housing that have created this LGBT affirmative space.
Anna, can I ask you, what's interesting is, this is a space providing additional care that isn't on the ground floor. It's not a series of bungalows. You're many floors up with I've been an extraordinary view across all of London. Were you surprised when you were looking for a space to have the first Tonic that actually the solution was a high-rise solution?
No, not at all, because the vision was our founder's vision, it was the community panel's vision, and everybody from the start was, we want this in central London. It was very much an urban vision. And I think if you think of some of the history, that a lot of people came to London to find community.
You're describing communities that existed. Maybe Bob, you could take this. Communities that existed before. You're describing a big need, a huge community of people who are potential clients for this. Why didn't it happen before? Both Tonic and other projects. Why has it been so slow in the UK to take off? If you go to the US, if you go to continental Europe, many of these projects already exist.
Section 28 and the Times had an awful lot to do with that, in terms of that it was not accepted. There was no public funding that could go towards supporting LGBT communities.
One of the things that was a requirement for us for any housing project in London is that we do design affordable, either socially rented or some other purpose. In this case, for senior living. The only thing that we do as designers about that is we insist, if we take the project, that we also get to design the affordable. So we won't just design the apartments, the private apartments for sale. That's our kind of piece. And so for here, and obviously we're incredibly proud that you found that use from there. But of course, our view is We're just trying to design great apartments for people to live in. That's our game. And what we tried to do with the scheme here is it has to be maintained differently. There are a whole different level of costs that any affordable operator can put into. They're not the same as private housing. So we try to really strip them back, but protect the quality of the space, the social spaces, and all of those things. So as designers, all the things that we try to protect to make sure those things work. That's the stuff, and we're sitting at the back here kind of like laughing. That's all. I think we're really pleased because those are the kind of things that made it work. We couldn't be more proud to have a use like this to actually come in and find and acknowledge that need. But of course, all of the social needs that come and take affordable housing are all valid and all need answering. But I think for us, I think the things that we kind of learn is to just push more and push harder to get more of those requirements in, because that's the thing that helps the communities to bond in any kind of urban setting. So I think that's from our side. That's all we try to do.
As you've heard, it's an amazing thing to come up and tell your life story amongst so many people. So the markers of change that have happened over time. And thank you for bringing us here with Aaron into this, into Foster and Partners. Great to be here. And I think that there are many things to take away from today, but I think that maybe a little rallying call is, that we all need places, whoever we are, where we can celebrate our lives and not just have them tolerated. So a huge round to an amazing panel. Thank you.